My name is Grace. I am 74 years old, and until this Mother's Day, I believed that my family, my daughter Danielle, her husband Michael, and my two beautiful grandchildren were the center of my world. But on that sunny Sunday morning, dressed in my favorite green dress, clutching flowers and treats for the children, my world shattered. I walked into Danielle's home, expecting love. The little ones ran toward me shouting Grandma Grace, and their hugs filled me with warmth. For a moment, everything seemed perfect, but then came the card. Danielle insisted I read it aloud. It looked sweet at first, decorated with childish drawings. I smiled, expecting words of love. Instead, the words cut like a knife: roses are red, violets are blue. You're a heavy burden. No one wants you here. Your time has passed. The room filled with laughter, Michael's cruel chuckle, Danielle's smirk. Even the children giggled, copying their parents. In that moment, on the very day meant to celebrate motherhood, I felt stripped of dignity. Tears rolled down my cheeks. I dropped the card. Danielle waved her hand dismissively. Oh Mom, don't be so dramatic. It's just a joke. But there was no joke. Not when Michael followed it with, maybe you should start looking at other options, senior living communities, places for people like you. My heart sank. I wasn't a guest in their home, I was an unwanted burden. That night, I cried in silence. But humiliation turned into something stronger. It woke up the woman I used to be, the sacrifices they forgot. I sat in my armchair, the same one where I nursed Danielle as a baby, and the memories flooded back. Danielle's father abandoned us when she was 3. I raised her alone, working double shifts at the textile mill. My hands bled from sewing uniforms, but I never let her go hungry. When she wanted to study nursing, I sold my mother's jewelry to pay her tuition. During her 5 years at university, I worked weekends cleaning offices. I came home exhausted, but the sight of her studying made it all worth it. At her graduation, she hugged me and said, "We did it, Mom." I cried with pride. When she married Michael, I gave her $12,000, half my life savings, for her dream wedding. Later, I gave them $25,000 for a down payment on their home. When the grandchildren were born, I became their free babysitter. For 3 years, I arrived at dawn, cooked, cleaned, raised them while Danielle worked. She used to call me an angel. But gratitude faded. Slowly, I became invisible. My advice was interference. My presence was too much. And yet, whenever they needed money, I was always there. $4,000 for a car repair, $8,000 for a kitchen remodel, thousands more for school, bills, emergencies. I was their bank, their unpaid nanny, their safety net. But not their mother. Not anymore. The humiliations that piled up. I remembered the birthday party I wasn't invited to. Everyone was there, except me. I remembered the Christmas where my gifts were tossed under the tree, opened without thanks. Even the pearl necklace I gave Danielle, an heirloom from 3 generations, was handed back with indifference. And the worst moment, when I fell ill with the flu. Fevered, weak, I called Danielle for help. She told me to ask a neighbor. And so, it was Mrs. Johnson, my 82-year-old neighbor, who brought me soup, not my own daughter. Piece by piece, I realized what I had become in their eyes. Not a mother, not a grandmother. Just a burden with a wallet, the truth they never knew. But they didn't know the full story of Grace. They didn't know that I inherited a beachfront condo in Nassau. They didn't know about the investments left by my Aunt Lucille. They didn't know about the $400,000 quietly growing in accounts I never touched. I lived modestly, letting them think I survived on a small pension. They thought I was powerless. But I wasn't. I was simply patient. The awakening that night after Mother's Day, I opened my wooden box of documents. I added up the numbers, $67,000 I had given them in the last 5 years alone, and for what? Disrespect. neglect. Cruel laughter. I realized something vital. You teach people how to treat you by what you are willing to accept, and I had accepted too little for far too long. So I made a choice, the new Grace. The next morning, I dressed in my finest suit, styled my hair, and walked into the bank, not as a weak old woman, but as a woman reclaiming her life. I canceled every automatic transfer to Danielle's account. I closed the joint savings account. I moved funds where only I could touch them. Then I went to my lawyer. I rewrote my will. Not a penny would go to Danielle or Michael. Instead, everything would go to a foundation for abandoned seniors, people like me, who had given love and received rejection. I created a trust for my grandchildren. They could only receive it at 25, and only if they maintained a genuine relationship with me. Finally, I booked a one-way ticket to Nassau. First class. This wasn't a vacation. This was freedom. The letters before leaving, I wrote 2 letters. To Danielle, I wrote, for decades, I gave you my time, my money, my love. You chose to see me as a burden. Now, you must learn independence. If you want me back, it will only be because you truly value me, not my wallet. To Michael, I wrote, I accepted you as the son I never had, but you treated me as unwanted furniture. You mocked me, plotted to discard me. What you never knew is that I had more wealth, more strength, and more freedom than you could ever imagine. I no longer fund your life. That chapter is closed. I left the letters where they would find them, the freedom, as I locked my suitcase and prepared for the airport. I felt something I hadn't felt in years, peace. Yes, I was 74. Yes, I had wrinkles, gray hair, tired bones. But I was not a burden. I was not useless. I was Grace. The woman who raised a daughter alone. The woman who sacrificed everything. The woman who was about to live her own life, finally free. And as I boarded that plane to Nassau, I whispered to myself, they tried to break me with a cruel card. Instead, they gave me the courage to fly.